We'll open up all with all the Band-Aids and scratches.
Okay. You can call the meeting order.
All right, so we'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with reading the approval of the minutes for our March 20th, 2025 meeting. Any motion to accept?
So move, sir.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
On to the finance report.
I'll make a motion to approve the check detail as presented.
Okay, need a second?
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
And I will make a motion to accept the cash flow statements as presented.
Second? All in favor?
So after only getting one quote for the stone wall, I put it out to bid and I didn't receive any. I am gonna try to work with the sign person who's been doing our signs since 2002 and the stone guys, to try to bring down the price a little bit. Right now, the highest would be 17,000 to repair it. And I put the bid in so you can see it's not just, moving some rock around. I have to dismantle part of the wall, put in concrete, raise it up. What happened over the last 15 years is it's sinking into the clay. So we need to stabilize it so that the top doesn't crack again. Our other options would be to remove it, but there's an ugly electric box right behind, that wall's hiding that. And we couldn't put it in front because that's where all the electric is in the ground. We'd have to put the sign behind, and there's not enough room between the electric behind and the fence. So my options are pretty much just to repair the existing stone.
Where do we post the bids? The
I
request for-
posted on our website, and put it in the newspaper.
Okay.
That's good on the mail.
Yeah.
I did call a couple other, I was gonna call a couple other, but they're not, they have to have insurance.
Yeah.
Commercial insurance, so
Yeah.
the two that I reached out to, they don't have that anymore, they just do little small repairs.
Yeah, that's the same thing that happened to the one I had to drop its commercial insurance.
Yeah. Yeah, it is what it is out there, and a lot of things.
So really, I just need an approval to spend.
I'll make a motion to accept the bid for the stone wall repair.
All those in favor? Aye.
And then also in your package is, our firewall for our computer system is, I've extended it a couple times, so we just need a new firewall for our server. That is $1,938.
So move.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
On to our updates. Renee, did you want to talk about the comprehensive plan?
Yeah, so everything's in place, so the towns have all approved it, they put it in the budget over the next 2-year cycle. I drafted for April just a simple little MOU between the municipalities, which everybody signed on to. We're ready to go. What the board needs to do is to appoint somebody from the board to be on the committee, and I strongly recommend Mr. Hendrickson. I asked him yesterday if he would do that for that.
You suddenly got volunteered.
Well, I think Freddie's good because Freddie doesn't remember the process last time, and he's in the, what I call Westa, West Pisaki, which is anything west of the thruway, which is, I love them all, but they're a different bunch up there. And they have a tendency to be a little paranoid sometimes about these things, and I think, Freddie brings a known entity to them up there, as well as his background.
And there are consultants. There are consultants that help keep the process.
Oh, yeah.
Structured.
Yeah, I don't expect we'll have a real problem. I don't see a lot of stuff being touched.
20 years ago, my wife we just got married. She loved this beautiful cabin. You were on board with Frank and Peggy, right? We sat in the open firehouse, way out there. And it was just early. It was just, I want to put my fucking washing machine in the front yard. I was going to tell. And it's just throw the bullets. And she's like, who are these people? These are your neighbors.
Welcome to your new hometown.
Well, as all this stuff works too, I won't get into specifics, but there was a part of the legislation that had to do with stream side. And well, the old guys were like livid about it. And it wasn't 6 months after we did the comp plan and passed the zoning that somebody was dumping manure on the creek up there, and all the old farmers up there were upset about it. And I said, well, this is what we tried to avoid. Well, I didn't understand. So we just, Freddie be a good
Well,
representative.
I think too, that was the first time kind of go around. So a lot of people, the unknown, because we had it up in New Baltimore too.
Yeah.
And then, you know, in fairness, there were some things in there that were a little, you remember again, there were a little BS and it was a little overreach so there was a little pushback. But I think a lot of people realized afterwards that it's okay, it's gonna, you know, there's a process, it'll shake out, and that, the change for them was almost nothing.
Right.
It was,
Right.
right.
So April obviously will represent the IDA, and then, given that I wrote the half of that first zoning code myself, actually, and it was involved in it, I have a bunch of things I've been on a checklist for years. So I'm just gonna prepare stuff and pass it to April as far as what I think are recommendations the IDA would wanna make. Some of it has to do really with zoning, the town of Saki has no more industrial land left.
Right.
So do they want industrial, not want industrial, they gotta make a decision, maybe move categories out of industrial into light industrial, if that's what you wanna keep as corridor. So there's some things in there that are appropriate to be done at this point, but everybody's pretty excited about it, and let's see where it goes. But we do need a board rep on it, and my recommendation would be Fred.
Fred, if you are willing to do that, we greatly appreciate it, thank you.
Happy to do it.
Great.
I would just do motion.
Yes, okay, so, we need a motion to appoint Fred to the comprehensive
Planning committee.
planning committee. Is second for that,
I'll second.
all those in favor? Aye.
Alright, so I'll jump right along, since these are things I'm working on. So on the battery storage work, in good shape, we have a glitch, which is not really a glitch, in that, I prepared the documents for what they call a jurisdictional determination, which is, because on this site here, Norbert, Quinzer, who's our ecologist, did the report, and, the report resulted in the fact that we think this is an isolated wetland, so it's non-jurisdictional, okay? Good news is with the current administration, it's not likely anybody's gonna put any more teeth into that at this point in time. But so we were going down a road of what they call jurisdictional determination, which is a pretty simple document. But now the Corps has decided they're not doing jurisdictional determinations anymore, which would be to come out. So all of these now have to be submitted as what's called a PCN. And so long story short, on my end, I've just asked, one, I wanted to wait till I got back to New York, which I can confirm, I walked the property, because you've got Chippy over there, you got the village, the town is clearing land over there, you got Eddie Ross, you got a bunch of people over there, and I wanted to make sure over the winter, nobody created a ditch for a connection type of thing, like, oh, we should drain this and make it work, so everything's good, nothing's been disturbed, we're still good on that. I just need Baywa now to send me a little more information, some drawings and a few other things to put into this package to beef it up. PCN, nice thing about these things, they go quick, they have to respond in 45 days. They don't respond in 45 days, then you're automatic. That's likely my projection of probably what will happen here, because the Corps is already in a staffing crisis up here in Troy. Worst case, we've got everything. I think we have a particular friend who's got good connections with the current administration. Peter Lopez, who used to be our assemblyman here, used to be the EPA Region 2 director, was offered the job and turned it down this term. But I've spoken to Peter, said, if we get a glitch on this one, I need some help, and you just let me know who I need to call. And so right now, between Schumer's office, who's always been very good for us with the Corps, and and somebody on the other side with the administration, so we're in good shape there. We got our angels lined up to sort of make things move along. Talked with Baywa the other day, it's not impacting. We're good on schedule and everything. I didn't get into the details with them on business, where business structure stands right now, but I have to imagine with tariffs and stuff, a lot of that equipment's imported, they're probably.
Actually, Tesla makes some, depending on where they're getting them from, that's a growing business.
Yeah,
for
so
Tesla,
I don't
battery
know where their
storage.
intentions are either.
Yeah, they're made right in Texas, so.
And it may not be the batteries, it could be the inverters, none of us will know for sure until the dust clears, but I think they're better off in New York State than anywhere else, because you guys are still incentivizing this stuff, so we'll see how that goes. But anyway, we're in good shape, I think, I don't see any issue with not having to break from it at all. And but frankly, my recommendation would be to spend just a couple dollars on, once I get this cleared, and just clear the property, and get it where we can mow it to it and just keep it on that.
That's finished. So we presented the report to the board. Next up, Eric and I will be meeting with Eric Renee and I will be meeting with Steve Cole, who represents Athens Gen still. He retired, but he stayed on as a consultant. So we have a meeting set up with him to discuss the master plan, and their CEO will be joining us too. So that's coming up first, and then we'll have a group meeting to discuss their master strategy, that idea, whatever ideas come out of that meeting. Will include the town of Athens and their planning board and their council.
April, did we get an actual meeting on the calendar for that? I saw some emails going back and forth, but.
Oh, you're out of town for the initial meeting, so Renee and I will meet with Steve and the CEO, and then I'm gonna
Was it in
schedule.
May?
Nope, it's coming up next week on the
I'll
22nd.
be here. No, I think I
Okay.
gave you the wrong week, or I was just out of town.
Okay, so I'll send you the date.
Yes.
It'll just be over at the plant.
Yeah, okay.
It's just a preliminary meeting.
Yeah.
And then once we come up with ideas of brainstorming
Yeah.
of what we can do with their property and what they want to do,
Right.
then we'll have a master plan
Okay.
with a larger group.
So this will be the first meeting actually with
Yep.
representatives that are coming. Steve's been good as a go-between,
Yep.
but we really need to meet with the
Oh,
the
absolutely.
company reps.
Because it doesn't need to go any further if their heads are in some other.
Well, we need to I think you need to, when you go, you need to nicely remind them that this isn't an ask, that this is a requirement, in the current pilot that they have. And that, they need to come to the table in a meaningful way and be open for, be open with us on what their plans are, where they see this thing going. And, I think, like you guys, I was likewise a little bit disappointed in the data report that we had done. I think that we didn't pay much for it.
Yeah.
But I think it does, it shows interest to them. Now the point is to try to get them to pony up some real money. And they have.
Yeah, I mean, the data center thing didn't really tell us, I don't think, anything we didn't already know. We were hoping for some kind of, I think what we need to know is what's the price point? Where is the point that it becomes interesting for a data center? What's the price per kilowatt, or what is the number,
Again, likewise, the whole data center is kind of up in the air. There's all this talk now about building bunches of them, and then some of the stuff I read, people are slowing down.
I don't think there's any slowdown to it.
But we need to, I don't say can't with AI.
Not
it's got to,
possible.
so.
The actual choke point I've been reading is literally gonna be power, and even some of the power equipment, they built, from transformers to the actual production of power is gonna be the choke point.
Right.
So,
I can't help but think that some of the disruption in broad energy policy, that they may become something other than a peak plant or whatever that, because there's just a
Oh,
whole
yeah.
lot of other stuff going on. You're like,
demand is.
the demand
Right.
for the core business may
Yeah.
shift a little bit
So
while
that-
all this other stuff sorts out.
That's something in the conversation with them, because one of the things I had heard, you probably heard this before, Renee, is that one of their problems is the way the grid is set up, so they can't just crank out power to go to, just say Buffalo, but, it's in a zone, and.
This zone is the worst in the state where we're at right now.
Yeah, it's like a little desert or whatever, but, I don't know, that's what we're gonna find out initially.
So I guess the message we need to send that to the meeting is, one, this was a serious commitment and had a reason. Two, we're 100% behind you, but let them focus there, because I'm sure they're thinking about this stuff. Let them focus on like hiring consultants for their data center. We'll work on what we work on, the environmentals and the infrastructure and, partnering with them and the incentives.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting. I'm looking
Yeah, we'll see
forward
what
to
their
this first
take is on
meeting
it,
with
yeah.
them on this. My projection is, if things keep going the way they're going in New York, let's look out 30 years. I think the whole place is a big battery, and there's one turbine left that's just like a trickle charger on my motorcycle. That just, runs occasionally to boost juice.
Or
We'll see what that
multiple
does,
Yeah, we'll see.
We're talking about when the lifespan starts to run out of the plant too.
Modular nuclear by then.
That's where we're looking to go.
That's what's coming, that's the next thing. They're already, they're doing one in Texas, right, it's coming up. Dow Chemical's making one at their plant. And they're gonna use it primarily for their own consumption, but they'll probably sell the residual off.
Yeah.
But they've already been in the approval process pretty far, and,
Got a buddy working down in North Carolina.
Yeah. the way it's gonna go.
Always evolving.
Yep. Uh,
The why not?
Yeah. So in package that April sent you already, I think, that you guys got, so I've been working this, we started on our own doing this, and then John Joseph, who's with Southern Realty, who we were dealing with the hotel, which is, you know, very much a qualified and, straight shooter. He's expressed some interest in it, so what we've been able to do is not pay charges or whatever engineering drawings that his guy's been doing for us. So after a bunch of back and forth between him and I, did you guys get this in here? Did you get it?
Yeah.
So what we're looking at basically, it would be an 84 unit, 3 buildings with a proposed community building. They have to come in off of here where he's got it a little bit off. I gotta have him, I just printed it full size and just realized it today. We actually gotta come in really here. So good news is this, looking at the wetland acreage and disturbance and et cetera, even as it is here, it'll get reduced over here. We're well under half an acre, which means from an Army Corps of Engineers standpoint, we fit under the half acre nationwide permit, which is a much more, again, abbreviated process. And from DEC, the wetland acreage is, the wetland disturbance is only about 5,000 square feet. So, and then we got about another 4,000 or 10,000 square feet in DEC buffer zone. So again, long story short, I don't see any issues with this permit at all.
You say 84 unit?
84 units, yeah. So that,
What specifics on the units?
I'm sorry.
Specifics on the units or what?
Yeah, they're on. So we're looking at like 21 one bedroom, 39 two bedroom, and
Tiny on
24.
the upper,
I'll
yeah.
email it to
Yeah.
you.
It's a little chart in the upper corner. You might have to get rid
No,
of
I'll email you the PDF. so you can-
Just have that.
We're at least talking about
So
this.
these are-
Magnifying glass.
So now, when we started this conversation about doing the Y lot, you know, we were talking like trying to find a mixed use. So somebody that would have, you know, some commercial space integrated with the housing. And as we're going through this winter, John just doesn't feel right now that, it feels that adding the commercial space is gonna add too much financial risk to it. There are a couple of empty buildings, commercial buildings on 9W that have been empty for years now. I mean, a dispensary finally filled the old Family Dollar, but there's an empty space next to it. And there's commercial, zoned land, plenty of it up there. So right now, the lowest, you know, almost, I won't say risk-free, but the lowest risk you have is in housing. And multifamily housing is probably one of the easiest things right now to get. Nothing's easy to get financed, but it's probably one of the easier things to finance versus single-family home development or et cetera. So right now, this is just focused strictly as a housing project, okay? His intent is to try to work his way through. He's got some partners he's working with and try to work his way through the tax credit program with the state. So if he can do that, because it'd make it, I don't know what the hell we're supposed to call it anymore, workforce, affordable, obtainable, I guess is. I like the word workforce because I think we should use it still because it ties into what your mission is here.
We don't wanna use affordable housing, people get all.
Yeah.
How do they
Oh,
control,
no.
how do they control that? What does that mean?
So it basically comes down, so the way this model basically works is through tax exemption. So the developer puts together a plan and a pro forma, approaches the state to get awarded tax credits. Most 90% of the time, these guys can't even use the tax credits themselves, but they are, you know, you can liquidate, you can sell them to banks and other people who need the tax credits, so they have a market value to them. And then the way the housing works is, there's income requirements. You have to work, so you have to have income. Income can't be Social Security or something like that. And it's just sort of one of these things where, you know, Renee Bishak's son has got his first job. He's making minimum wage. His rent is this much. Every year they income qualify. So every year they got to report their income. And then next year, maybe I got promoted to chief bagger, you know, and I went up, my rent went up a little, but eventually what you do is you top out. And when your income tops out, then it's, okay, you got time, go find a market rate apartment someplace and free up a unit for that. But it's all done through the state with tax credits and the rest of it. My recommendation to you would be that if they do that route, that we should maybe consider incentivizing the project by either, you know, a steep discount on the property or some kind of terms over time on the property or something, ground lease or something, just because even in today's day and age, You know, everybody needs whatever they can get for some help. on
Does,
some of this.
does the property has water and sewer?
It does.
It does, and could support what theoretically an 84 unit.
It can. Right now, I think we actually probably have enough credits ourselves. We have about 34,500 gallons a day of credit. The village has another, don't hold me to this, village has maybe another 150,000, another 100,000 gallons they just got after doing the sewer work. So yeah, between the two of us, we would have enough to cover this.
Would it exhaust our bank?
We might get it down to next to nothing, but don't forget the village still has capacity, and they're gonna have more capacity, released too, because they're doing another I project. It sound like a familiar tale? You know, and that's why kind of frustrating, we've been chasing this for my entire career and this stuff.
Seems like.
But the village is moving, they got another $6 million project. There's, I don't know if you guys know, but there's a sewer line goes down through here. And then it goes down behind, Cumberland Farms, and it goes out Manny Hotel's house. He's got the house with the red barn, the big lawn there as you come into the village behind his house. And it comes to that pump station that's right there by Bethany Village. When the creek is up, when you see that creek up into those fields, the manhole covers are under 4 feet of water. And they quote unquote have rubber seals on them. But that creek, I mean, nobody's ever replaced them. That line's 40 years old maybe now. So they're gonna fix that line, reline it, and do some other work. So that'll be the next piece. I'm not as worried about it, to your point, because we have to use up some of the credit. And by the time this ever gets built,
I was
the
gonna say,
village, you know, this is,
he's in the embryonic stage.
yeah, he's at least
3
2
years
years
out,
out,
easy.
3 years
Yeah.
maybe, make this happen. So I
And
think.
see, maybe there'll be a rate cut and some other things will happen in between then, and then
Right.
move it faster or go the
So-
other way.
You have to get allocated the credits. I mean, the big challenge is they're not unlimited, so they're
Right.
done, they're typically regionally done, and as you said, you line up, like I know our corporate parent does these all over the country.
So, and we're not even at the
Provides
point
credits and-
on our end where we need to
Yeah.
incentivize, right, so we can wait and see where they're at. And
Right. Oh, and all I've made no commitment, because obviously I have no authority to make a commitment on your behalf, but I basically told John, look, this is something we wanna do, it was a piece of land that we figured, you know, we weren't ever gonna sell anyway.
Yeah.
I'm certain that we could find some way to, you know, help incentivize the project a little bit on the land side, but
Yeah.
no commitment made, no nothing, there's no options, we're.
We'll see where he's at when he like I said, when he gets to that point.
If it doesn't work out with him, at least we'll have, you know, we'll go through and have the thing permitted and have a footprint there, and if somebody else comes along, turns it sideways, as long as we don't change the impacts on the wetlands and stuff, we'll be fine.
Maybe, I just keep thinking that the people that are gonna benefit the most from them, entities, are the big employers. And so I'm wondering if there's a way to get them involved, maybe by, you know, putting money into the commercial space for daycare center or something. So they come out as, you know, throw some money in, come out as heroes and.
They frankly could buy the credits. I mean, if he gets to that point.
Okay.
You know, and to be clear, when we buy the credits in my enterprise, it comes out of investor relations. It's got nothing to do with corporate foundation. These are business decisions.
right.
They go in, they evaluate the project, and that becomes the cash, essentially, that kind of buys up, seeds the project, if you will.
Yeah, see, I think it's worth the conversation, because
Well, I
they're,
don't know if we're there yet, is it?
no, but when,
I don't disagree with you, but I
Yeah.
think we gotta see, they gotta go down the road a little farther, and then we'll see if there's a gap. That's when, if there's a gap there and we have to, you know, start getting creative, then would be something to look at. But I don't know if we're there yet,
Mhm.
but this is a good start anyways. We got a
Yeah.
concept.
We have someone who's willing to take it to a concept.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And John is very, very interested, and he's a smart guy, he's seeing that, he's been a big commercial developer for a long time, and he's seeing the writing on the wall with commercial development and stuff like that, and that housing's where the place will be.
Is this eligible for sales tax and mortgage tax credit as well?
It could be, yeah, so Paul's not here, Paul in the past has raised concerns it isn't, but yet every other IDA is doing it. And so I don't see,
We could do a land lease, right? Can we do a land lease?
You could do a land lease, you could-
You know, there's a lot we could do. I guess we don't know yet what we need to do.
And don't forget, as as a public authority, we have the ability to do a negotiated land sale. We don't have to go to the highest bidder, get the highest price, the rest of it. So the land in itself could be one of the incentives, in some way, whether it's discounted and or otherwise.
Paper on the land if needed that they, there's a lot of different options because of this piece is, I don't call it junk piece, but it was a piece that.
It also
Everyone
could get a
uses it.
pilot too.
Yeah.
It can
Really?
get all three of them, yeah.
Right, and the reason why I ask is I was approached a week or two ago that someone else wants to build about 50 units over here, Earlton Way, I believe. And they were gonna go to the post 55 age group, basically for the people who want to downsize. And I said to them, well, as far as I know, there's no ability for like the IDA or anybody else to help you with that. So I did mention to them workforce housing. They said, well, we're not too far in yet. We would be willing to look,
Right.
but I'm not really sure what to feed him as far as potential, not commitment, but potential of what our tools are when it comes to housing.
So my feelings on it, my interpretation after 11, 15 years of running the place, that a lot of IDAs are doing it, and they're doing the full suite of benefits, okay? They're doing all of them, okay? And I don't see where we get. I think that if the IDA starts doing benefits on, $500,000 homes, 500,000, then, that's like a no-no, but, commercial and anymore, 10 years ago, I would have said, you know what, if it's not specifically workforce housing, we probably should stay away from it politically. But even now, market rate housing is shortage of that, and
So I can send out the 2 reports that the county did again, that you have
Yeah.
access to, and all the draft paperwork that I came up with. We kind of put a hold on it to see if any developers would come to us first to apply for benefits. So it's kind of the chicken and the egg thing. We have
Right.
kind of some ideas of what we could do for pilots for housing as a separate policy, or we could stick with our UTEP and deviate from that. So I can send out all that drafts again, but.
It's, that's an $8 to $10 million project with 84 units. The only thing we gotta watch is that we don't do something that triggers a prevailing wage scenario.
Well, I was just gonna
Because
ask
that'll
about
blow
the new
that
state
project
law,
up.
I sent you that article,
Yeah,
and that, I don't even think it's a question about triggering, that's, somebody needs to really look at the law, because
Yeah.
the new interpretation is if there are public incentives going into the project, there are, you're triggering prevailing
that's
wage.
where we have to be
Send me
careful,
that.
yeah.
Yep,
Or-
I sent it to,
Or April
I-
Fool's.
yeah.
That'll-
That's new, I'm not aware of that.
It is new.
They've
been
It has-
talking
it
about
has
trying to
been-
do it
has
for a
been
while.
year ago. The building condos, or some of the building trades were trying to change it, not the trades, the
Yeah.
associated
No, the rates are
agency,
insane.
the general
We work on them
contractors.
all the time.
They just came in with 2.6 million on a senior center in here. And,
Well, that'll be the death knell of most of these.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
that's it, that's exactly what
Whoever
I.
thought it was a good idea to have a laborer cost almost $80 an hour on projects? I mean, really, 80, and their rates are going up every year.
This
Yeah,
is New York State.
It's
It's just beware, because, pull the statute down.
I know they were trying to do it, because that was publicly funded, obviously, you got that problem, and I know they were trying to do it if it had any incentives at all.
And that was the change,
And they
according to, well, I sent the article to both you and to, April, after our last board meeting.
Yeah, all right, let's forward that to me, I wanna look,
Yeah.
I'll look at that.
that's something we're gonna have to think through on that, because that's.
Well, we got a ways to go.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
Frankly, on a lot of projects, just be really,
You're right,
we're
yeah,
just,
it's a good point.
need to understand.
What,
What is the, UMH, if I heard anything like that? How competitive are these types of?
It's a totally, so it's a totally different model, for one, you're talking much bigger price point, I don't know, when UMH first filed, they were talking about houses that were in like 250 to 275 range, okay? And then you don't even own the house, you rent the lot under you. Well, I don't know how they're gonna sell them in a unit, so they must be 300,000 a unit now or more. I don't see this competitive, these are gonna be, we're looking at people that are workers, aren't really ready to qualify probably for a house, well, even at a UMH.
Has UMH
scale.
even started?
They're through the process, all the legalities were changed, they are wrapping up the seeker process right now, and in fact, it just moved to the planning board.
How much of the 100,000 gallons is having to be earmarked for that? I know that they got told they had to provide it.
I know. It'll be built out in phases though, and again, same thing, maybe at least 2 to 3 years if they broke ground tomorrow. Maybe 2 years before they have anything substantially built in there.
And what is, just conceptually, 50 units in a row for water and sewer?
That's what I'm thinking, when we sat in the old area, I'm like, I don't know where
You got
somebody's.
wells and.
I don't know how far they are, because I didn't want to get too deep in it.
It's not
because-
conceptual.
I mean, conceptually, there's some spots up there you could get water.
Is that on the Sean Martin property?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know either. I
Sean-
don't, like I said, I
Sean
didn't get
Martin
in too
I'm
deep,
just-
but
No, that's under, those farms that they all,
They're up there going for some lakes and streams.
yeah, Lakes Streams and Mountains Realty is doing a big subdivision on all that farms.
Yeah.
The other thing I don't even think about it being this big real quarry was, but. They're saying there's no wastewater up there for
There's
sure.
no leach. They're across from house, you already already have their leach.
I know.
So as I sit on the planning board, the subdivisions did come before us, but it's not jurisdictional, like there was nothing presented that the county planning board would have to vote on, it'd be local decision to do those subdivisions, but there's nothing planned yet for, well, or water sewer, it's just the subdivision is being planned right now.
So last thing I wanna know too is that, if you look at this lot, we own out to here. This is the Y lot. This is all stream and wetland here. The industrial line's back here. Once they build this in here, there's really no energy in here. So one thing I was gonna consider doing is, we'll offset our wetland impacts in here from this if we have to, and maybe possibly even, be able to, we'll set the wetland impacts for this project off in this area, and then eventually to make this a separate lot, and then just add this land to the land trust land, and not have a parcel sticking out there.
And what is this?
That's the difference
The zone.
between the industrial zone, quarter industrial and, commercial. It's 600, I can't remember if it's 500 or 600 feet, I think it's 500 off the road.
will this potentially be able to connect to the trail?
Yes,
I think that would be a nice.
yes, very much. Which is why you mentioned the trail, which is another reason, one of the things that I have on the comprehensive plan, again, is to get into the plan, that trail being developed from the connecting the village to the business park. So we have what we've struggled with, the Anderson lot, which is what that was intended to be. And at one point in time, we intended doing like a parking lot that would be a weekend for the trail. I asked the village about taking it on. Mark was in crisis with everything at that point. But I'm hoping to come out with a comprehensive plan with that is identified as like a priority project for the village and town, as well as to get Mark in the village to take over that parcel from us, so it could be used for that in the future. And then once that happens, that also gives us the ability as we do benefits for some of these other people in the Sauk area with these community benefits. So we've been, making everybody do something. We could maybe start we just did the tourism center. We could maybe start getting that project funded through, community benefit with, payments for the future.
Okay, just quick on Flipmine Solar, Paul drafted a letter or sent a letter to the judge asking him to make a ruling, move along, because Sleepy Hollow keeps asking for extensions to perfect their appeal. And I have a call with Flipmine Solar tomorrow to see how they're doing, what their status is, what their plan is, and then I can report to the board in May.
We'll drag it out just long enough for the price of all the equipment to go through the roof, and it'll be.
That was sort of stated in Paul's letter.
Yeah.
I would imagine that that'll be some part of the focus of the comprehensive plan as well.
I look forward to that.
I'm sure you do.
Okay, jumping right into our big parks update, Gateway Greene Commercial Park, Catskill Lodging is going before the planning board on the 22nd. I think our goal is to get them their site plan approved.
At this point, we're totally queued up, so, they've got everything they need now to complete the application. They're in on the 22nd. There's no reason they can't. In fact, we hear you and us and Mary Beth that they'll get it. Delaware will advise them to move it to public hearing. Public hearing will be end of May, and then boom, that'll be the approval, and we're done. The sewer is now settled. We had a meeting with Delaware. What went from initially a 500,000 plus request, we got down to what's gonna cost us about 20,000 for buying these credits. Off the record, it is what it is, but it's kind of funny that $115,000 of 150,000 gallons of already available credit are sitting there right now. But DEC has worked, so I think us digging our feet in over the winter in April could say we had a lot of calls back and forth with DEC and stuff, and I even teetered on the edge of being an asshole a couple times, but where we got them was to the table to look at a reasonable mitigation plan and map this pie in the sky baloney. So anyway, it's gonna be another 20 grand hit roughly for us, and that's better than 500. So that way.
Have they completed their seeker?
Yeah, yes, I believe they canceled, finished the public hearing.
Okay,
Couple questions. Do we need, because DEC still gotta approve the village's, credit plan.
Correct.
So do we need any assistance in that process with whether it be Senator Hinchy or others?
It wouldn't hurt.
Okay, so we
It
should
wouldn't hurt to have
probably,
a phone call made to support it. Again, I'm pretty comfortable after we had the meeting with Rick. I think DEC will go along with it. I think in the one phone call that me and April did, just with them without the engineers, things started to change after that phone call. They started getting more cooperative, and because my point was, Catskill's been a CSO community forever. How did you hook up a whole new district? When it met your needs, to hook up a whole new district, and it really comes down to one guy. If it was not been for this, Mary Beth told you two were in the meeting, and anybody that's worked around state for a long time, you would think that can't happen. I can tell you, I've been working with DEC regional offices 40 years now. That absolutely happens. It's amazing the dysfunction in that agency, how one little guy at the bottom can tie everything up, okay? And that's what we got caught up in here, but so it's all good. We pushed, we got a solution that's workable.
so does the village have their plan before DEC?
Yes.
They submitted it?
That had already been submitted right to city before we.
I know that they passed it, I know that they adopted their,
Yep.
So for the board, I sent in a letter that it's a preliminary application that we are applying to the village for those credits. That's our intention. We need a motion from the board to approve that preliminary application for sewer extension.
any second,
I'll second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
And so I was a little worried in the so the policy, and Mary Beth even admits it, it's not really it doesn't fit like an O.J. Simpson glove on doing pre-shovel work, pre-development work. You can't buy credits in advance and some other things. You also have to have all your hydraulic plans in place. Well, a lot of times we don't have that when we're pre-doing the shovel-ready business part. But they have 115,000 gallons available right now. By fall, they'll have another 500 and some thousand gallons, and we have like 650,000 gallons. For the life of me, I can't see that much capacity being used very quickly, okay?
there's nothing major being proposed down there that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I mean, we need right now 10 for this, and let's say another 10 for the restaurant, maybe 8 for the restaurant. We'd be in good shape at this point, I think. So I'm not concerned about buying credits in advance. Because that was the other possibility, was to actually take, just like we did at Kisaki, which was to take on some of the mitigation work ourselves, so we physically own the credits. They're our property. But at the two projects that they had, the credits were like $5.25 a gallon for one, and $7.50 something, or $7.60, let's say. So it was like twice to 3 to 4 times the cost. So I think at this point in time, there's no real risk to the idea. There's enough capacity there for a while and to satisfy our needs.
Well, the village has time to modify their plan.
Yeah.
As they adapt it to this.
Yeah, I don't know when because this is only the first 5 million of 20 million, that's gonna get them this 500,000, so they're gonna continue to do projects, and so I think we'll be in really good shape. And then I think we just need a little leeway and Mary Beth was gonna look at the rules too, that had to do with what you had to submit in your hydraulic studies. And primarily retrofits and reuses, they want really detailed, but new construction, they know there's no combined, nobody's putting roof laterals into sewer lines in new construction. Now, old buildings, that's something you might wanna look, I can see them require that to look
Definitely is
at.
the case.
If you will, though, probably like, so the buildings on Main Street.
Most of the east side.
Yeah, so, anyway, so we're good shape, we're moving along, and it'll be in John's hands. And I had a conversation with him right before the DEC meeting a week and a half ago. He's full steam, I asked him specifically where you feel about the tariffs and lumber, and he's like, it's gonna suck, but we have a good partnership, our partners we have good equity backing, we have good financial, good bank, financing backing. So he says he'd rather not be that way, but it's not gonna hold up. So we'll see, after May, it'll be kind of in their court,
Well,
Yeah,
if the board doesn't have any objection, then I'll speak with some of the powers to be at the county regarding Senator Hinchy and others.
Okay, good, so we're, okay,
Yeah.
so, Daryl Lake is my committee chair down at the legislature, and he asked me to come every other month. There's a little bit of a hiccup, not that they're expected to see me this month, so I would probably send them an email update, but we'll officially go down in May. Hopefully by then I'll have a groundbreaking date, which I would love the entire board to attend. We haven't done a.
Well, you're not
official
gonna have a groundbreaking date until they're through their public hearing and through the planning board. That's really the timeline, and there's no reason to jump a gun here.
Okay.
Because to me, a lot of things can happen. The presumption is a planning, the hearing happens and the approval happens.
Right.
But by May, you should
By
be able to satisfy all
Yeah.
grumbling of whatever.
Yeah, there's really nothing on it, the only thing that's been a little bit of a, I don't know, call it a sticking point or not, is the traffic. The engineers have been recommending they do a full-blown traffic study, and we've been pushing back saying, why? It's not gonna produce anything, first of all, it's a hotel with two more rooms, there used to be a hotel there. But long story short, even if it tells us it's gonna make a 4-second wait or a 5-second wait longer at the light, there is literally no mitigatable action at that location other than reducing the size of the hotel or not building or putting something smaller in that has less traffic. There's no room for another red light, there's no room for a roundabout, there's no room for anything down there to make that better. And to make a developer, just because your checklist says you should do this, and not here's some comments. But I think as the other day, we talked with Mary Beth, and she was gonna have a conversation with her guy and make that like.
So the way.
So I think.
Not even much traffic down there, is there?
No.
I've not been there in the morning when people are maybe
Like you
trying
said,
to.
there was a
get into-
hotel there.
I mean,
There was.
Yeah.
Stewart's has been pulling some cars off, and we'll have
Catskills
tourism
usually
center,
fun,
but
usual. I just read in the minutes by Tully, him, what's his name, that owns the
figure center, the figure.
bar and the restaurant up on.
Yeah, you mean out on 32?
Yeah,
Yeah, but Vitalia.
yeah, but I just saw in the minutes, I was looking back through the minutes on some meetings, and he wants to convert a 1-family house to 2-family. And the planning board is like, you gotta get archaeology done, he's doing nothing outside the house, just the inside, archaeology, wetlands map, delineation, he's like,
I think
So-
I challenge that.
it's challenging.
The footprint hasn't changed.
But anyway, I'll leave it at that.
Let me ask you about, we haven't really heard much, or that I'm aware of at least, regarding what the redesign of the hotel. Where did that all fall? Is it still the
I
same
haven't
building?
seen, I'm thinking it's the Adirondack look, but I have not seen,
It's only the
elevations.
facade is the redesign, not the actual.
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, we
did
had
you-
to move the footprint, right?
Requested
Yeah, they already
redesign?
had done that, so that was already applied to the planning board because of rock, they rotated it, so they could put the board. And it'd be less expensive to rotate it,
That's-
so it's been rotated, that plan has been before the planning board for
So
a
you're-
while, I just don't know what the color scheme's gonna be.
What's what are you hearing about Best Western? 'Cause I've been hearing from
Is this
people that are doing a bunch of work
Well,
up there,
I don't
and it's
know.
getting rebranded.
It's
It is
already-
rebranded.
it's already-
Yeah, it is.
Already done, yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's part of their suite of brands and they just,
It's like those boutique brands.
yeah,
type things.
it could all be part of the same Best Western umbrella, possibly. And using their
No, I don't
reservations.
think Best Western's under Hilton. This is now Hilton.
Oh, is it under
Yeah.
Hilton? Okay.
It's
Yeah.
under Hilton.
It's a
So,
positive thing. in
No,
my opinion.
absolutely, oh, it's absolutely positive, because it was
Yeah.
a seriously
Yeah.
degraded property.
Oh,
They
yeah.
put nothing into that since
Yeah.
built.
so, no, I haven't heard anything, other than I drove, like everybody else drove by, and I was like, well, looks like something's changed in there.
They were supposed to, note 17 with Tractor Supply, did that happen this week?
They didn't follow up with me. They were, their broker, real estate person, was supposed to look at our 4.2 acres, so I have a call and an email to him, like, when can we meet? So. And then the other site, that 14 acre site, the ICF guy, Mike Cleary is doing due diligence, he has reached out to the town about zoning and building codes and things like that, so they're doing their due diligence, nothing's, set yet, we don't have an option, another contract or anything like that, but that would be for the entire 14 acres, possibly to subdivide for manufacturing and distributing those concrete blocks, so it's, what does ICF, insert concrete forms. So they make the forms and they bring them to the site and then they fill them with
They look like
concrete.
Lego blocks that you fill up with concrete.
The big ones, the mafia?
No, these are like styrofoam blocks that you can literally set your foundation
Oh, shit,
and then they fill it.
and you're insulated. right?
Yep, and you're already insulated and it's done, they stick the rebar in, yeah.
He's already built a hotel, a 16-floor hotel, I can send you out the article on that, so.
They've been around a while, I mean, we've come across it. quite a bit, Especially residential, you see
I
more
saw them on the
residential.
Is the foam held up?
I saw that you used.
You see, once the concrete's poured, like when we end up having to cut a hole in one, we gotta scrape all the foam on the outside off, but it acts just like a form and then an insulator. After the concrete's set, it doesn't matter. You could literally strip the concrete.
But when you have the two blocks abutting each other, you got two layers of foam in between.
Yeah, they have like a connector there that allows for them to lock in. But
Okay.
yeah, they seem to,
Doesn't degrade.
no,
Yeah.
they seem to be pretty good. They're a little, I mean, a little expensive as far as just pouring a traditional wall with a guy forming it and pouring it. But then the benefit is it's already insulated and done,
Yeah.
so there is some benefit to that. Anybody have anything else?
No.
Okay, so, take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
In favor? Aye.